Hello, and welcome to The Conversation. My name is Shannon Taylor. I'm the Executive Director of Not Just Blacks and Jews in Conversation, and our special guest today is Sebastian Rocchiomp4. We'll hear from Sebastian shortly. He is a court analyst with the New York State Unified Court System, a dear friend, and a very good assistant and volunteer with Not Just Blacks and Jews in Conversation. His ancestry is both Italian and Hispanic, so he has the best of two wonderful nationalities, and we take advantage of both of them. I also had the great pleasure of meeting his mother, who is a teacher in the school system of New York City, and we hope to be doing a program at one of those schools on Italian and French and other languages and cultures, of which I am personally familiar and of which she is quite a master. And we thank Sebastian for the introduction. Sebastian has also been helping us with our interviews of Pete Seeger, a program on whose biography appeared this past week on public broadcasting, and we would like our several shows to have some quality to it. So in this rare instance, I've sought expertise in producing the tapes, and Sebastian and his family have helped, again, with volunteer services, because our coffers are empty. That's why we have a website that you can go to, NJBJC, and you can meet us in the field. In the meantime, there are many stories I wish to begin an introduction with before we go to Sebastian. There's a tragedy taking place in Gaza. And if you have listened to us in the past, and you've listened to our debates and our programming, then you know very well that I argued a long time ago that the original Jewish settlements were the perfect buffer for prevention of such a tragedy. That God was working overtime, and no missiles were penetrating past the Jewish settlements or cities, and no one was being killed in those cities. And those heroes were prepared to take the onslaught themselves, and the Israeli army and money that was being expended to assist them is a fraction of what is now being expended. When the decision was made by the Israeli government to remove the Jews from the cities, I urged that all of the inhabitants of those cities take the best deal that they can make and make it public and make it enforceable and do it at the earliest possible time. And in our various debates, it was urged that civil disobedience in Israel was the prevalent countermeasure that would be their better course. As you can see, they are now lost like the lost 10 tribes, scattered to the winds, having been pulled out, with now a divorce rate, the lost children out of school. Their rabbis are of absolutely no value in saving the community, and without jobs, barely resettled a fraction of the original community, and the missiles are now reaching the heartland. And of course, the world has taken no notice of the tremendous sacrifice that Israel made in terms of hoping that its enemies would see this as some great measure made for peace. Instead, the maw of the enemy, the fangs of the enemy, has simply sent larger missiles deeper into Israel's heartland, which can now reach Ashkelon and wound hundreds of people as they kill infants and others throughout Sderot on a daily basis, seeking more victims. Nothing has been said or done by the international community. Nothing will ever be done by the international community. No matter how many Jews die in Israel or outside, nothing will ever be done by the international community. That we are used to, and we should know this will always take place. And the rule of law does not operate under these circumstances. Only the rule of force and defense, which Israel is better at than all other nations. And so Israel is now forced once again to yield to that, and of course Hamas, which never knew the rule of law, uses the inhabitants of Gaza for its shield and the younger the better. Just like Fatah and Abbas uses the youngest for their suicide bombers, so Hamas uses it for shields. And Israel has sent its bravest into battle, and for some unknown reason did not press its victory once again, and sooner or later will have to. Meanwhile, the United Nations, united in only one calling, and that is to always tell Israel to stop defending itself, is trying to put a stop to Israel's defense, and hopefully those of you listening out there will realize that it is time to put a stop to the nonsense. When Israel abandoned its own cities, and the response by Hamas was to tear down the abandoned temples with their teeth and destroy the greenhouses meant for their food, and the inhabitants then went to try and plunder Egypt, and the result are rockets raining endlessly, day after day, even during the ceasefire, on the helpless citizenry of Israeli citizens and towns, trying to reach even onto Tel Aviv in the future. It is time, once and for all, to take out the enemy resistance, forcefully and permanently. There is no other avenue available. Certainly the United States wouldn't tolerate even a bullet. One bullet coming to the United States, and you will see how our wonderful, brave country would react. You don't see us being attacked under this marvelous administration. There has not been another successful attack since 9/11. How can we expect Israel to continually endure these bombardments under a different standard? A nation that sacrifices more for this elusive peace that for some reason only Condoleezza Rice thinks can exist for the time being, or Brzezinski of time past failures. How can anybody expect that brave nation to want to sacrifice more? Well, certainly I don't. And I want to see a restoration of the Gaza cities of Jews, so that we can once again have our heroes in place, and that will put a stop to the tragedy on a daily basis. I also am a fan of music, and popular music, having been a drummer in the most fantastic popular bands in this country. And a certain Andre Rieu is one of the more extremely popular conductors, certainly in Europe and Asia. I put together this Pop's Fantasy in Wonderland, shown on public television this past week, and to my great surprise, he played the theme from Exodus. For those of you who are familiar with Exodus, there are not that many anymore who remember this wonderful movie about the ship that was turned away from Israel by the British, not by the Germans or by the United States or by the Italians or by the Japanese, but by the British. It shows the beginnings, the birth of the Israeli state. And its theme is how, and I quote, "God gave this land to me." And the poor, starving, propertyless survivors of the camps who are on that ship get united with the heroes fighting for Israel's liberation to bring them from Europe into Israel one way or another, through blockades, through British attempts to board the ship and isolate the ship and starve the ship and sink the ship. Nothing new. My father was on such a ship. And the song goes on to say, with God's strength, we will build the land that God gave to me. Land is mine. And it's talking only about Israel, and it's talking only about Jews. Israel for Jews, this tiny little piece of holy land that the Jews will reclaim and build as their biblical territorial right once again, with tatters on their backs. And Andre Rieu, to my surprise, begins the introduction to this song by saying the land they are talking about in this song does not exist. That's a quote. He introduces it by saying the land does not exist. And he says that they're talking about a land where the children may run free. That's another quote from the lyrics of the song. Now, one can give Andre Rieu the benefit of the doubt and say, wonderful, he's playing the music of Exodus, and he has the three tenors to sing it, and it's a great performance. But no other song is taken out of its context. No other ballad or anthem, as the song from the movie Exodus has come to be, has ever been taken in such a denuded form, such a twisted form, to be an anthem for a land of fantasy, where children run free with adults, and there's no law, and there's no governing authority, and there's no religion, and maybe he's thinking of John Lennon, I don't know. But one thing I do know is that it is a travesty on the song. The song is Exodus, and the land is Israel, and it most certainly exists, and the Jews run free, and the Jewish children run free, and only the terrorists would stop them, as they would bomb Christians, Muslims, and Jews and Druze together. And he says in the introduction, we must all work hard to create such a country. And he does us all a very great disservice if he means that Israel does not exist, and that its children do not run free, and that we must all work to do anything but to stop these terrorists. And I call upon public television, Channel 21 and Channel 13, soliciting money by the score, with Andre Rieu as the reason, to apologize for this, and to put it in context, and to give the correct explanation. And I'm a member of public television and a subscriber, and I do it on that basis, and on the basis that I am sincerely questioning what was the motivation and intention behind such an introduction to such a song of incalculable worth and value and unquestioned integrity through these years, referring to the state of Israel and not to a fictional land of children. Well, you see what we have to come up against. You see what there is no end to what from the land of Exodus to the land of Ashkelon. There is no end to what we are faced with as Jews. I want to also bring to mind a not-for-profit production by our dear friend Cecilia Margulies, who will be here on the 18th of March. And there's music composed by Cecilia and a wonderful musician by the name of Rami Yadid, who many of you have seen before, with compositions by Chazan Emeritus Malavani, that will be profiled the following week. And it's, of course, dedicated to our champions in the survivors of Kuban Europe, for the memorial for the Korban, for the Holocaust that took place in Europe. That will be coming up in the month of April. And I want to salute the Raoul Wallenberg Foundation, International Raoul Wallenberg Foundation. They have commemorated our dear departed Congressman Tom Lantos, who passed away last month. He was one of the founders of the Wallenberg Foundation, a survivor from Hungary in the Holocaust, and a great, great champion of human rights throughout his very long tenure in the Congress. We will dearly miss him. Lastly, I am very happy to note that there is a bill in Albany, as noted in the New York Law Journal, that would grant libel terrorism jurisdiction. This comes from the February 28th issue of the New York Law Journal. You see, we're up to date here. And you heard from Rachel Ehrenfeld on this program exactly what the menace of libel terrorism is, where people who don't defend themselves with the huge costs attendant to that in England from supporters or would-be supporters, alleged supporters of terrorists who come to accuse the authors of exposés on the funding of terrorists, and come to get judgments there based on the very favorable laws in England favorable to those who would fund terrorists, very favorable to those who would defend themselves from such books, and get judgments against the authors, and then seek to put a stranglehold on these authors throughout the world against the continual publishing of such books, exposing the funding. In other words, shopping for the most suitable forum where they can prevent with one single judgment, the publishing anywhere or the discussion anywhere of the funding of terrorism. Now, if they have a bill passed in Albany, it will serve to provide the legislation that the Court of Appeal says is necessary to enable the courts to consider dealing with these issues of libel terrorism. And hopefully we will see some progress. I'm not allowed to comment on further on legislation or on bills, and I won't. But suffice it to say, I'm glad the issue is still in the air and is still being discussed, as vital as it is. And now we turn to our guest. I've given him a chance to get comfortable. This is his first time on television. And Sebastian, first of all, you are of both Italian and Puerto Rican heritage. Do you favor one as opposed to the other, or are you equally proud of both nationalities?
Yes, Shannon, I am equally proud of both nationalities.
And do you enjoy the music and the dance of both nationalities? Do you participate in celebrations of both cultures?
Yes, I do.
And tell me a little about your mother. Your mother is Italian, and does she serve up those delicious dishes that my mouth waters at every time I think of it?
Yes, she does. She serves very delicious dishes.
And where is she a teacher?
High School for Environmental Studies,
Where is that?
54th Street, Columbus Circle.
And we were discussing having a program in that school, and she is, I believe, she has a degree in Italian, and she also knows French fluent.
That's a Spanish.
Spanish. It's Spanish, Italian, and Spanish.
Yes.
And do you know both languages?
No.
Do you know either language?
Yes, I can understand it when spoken to.
Did you grow up with one of those languages?
Yes, Italian.
Now, I was in Italy, and several times, and I tried my best. I found that if I was able to speak a sentence or two in Italian, the whole nation loved me, and they carried me from one end to the country. It didn't matter what else I had to complain about. If I could speak Italian, and I love opera, and I love art, and that little Italian was enough to get me in every place. Do you have a passion for Italian art?
Yes, I did. I visited Italy about 2 times in my life. I visited Rome, Capri, and my mother's hometown in Gallo-Matese.
Where is that located?
In Caserta, Italy.
And we had a guest on the show that comes after us, Let Them Talk, who was from Italy, an Italian artist, and just raved about the art of Italy, of course, which is second to none. Do you favor art over music or music over art? Do you think they are mutually compatible? They go hand in glove?
I favor art over music.
Well, there's a person who knows what he likes. I like somebody who has a definite opinion. I have definite opinions, and I believe that's what you have to do in life. Now, you are a court analyst in the unified court system, and as such, part of your roles is to receive the public at the summons window, and most people, correct me if I'm wrong, do not know really what to do when they get a summons. Am I correct?
Yes, you are, Shannon.
And are they nervous when they get a summons, or they consider it a blasé affair, and they show up at you in a rowdy kind of way or in a nervous way?
Most of the time they're nervous. They don't know what is the procedure. They don't know what to do. They think that they are going to be convicted of a major crime. These are only summonses. I explained them that this is only a summons and that you would just go in to see a judge, and there's no trial lawyer or anything in that capacity.
Do you ever run into language difficulties at the summons window where you would need an interpreter to come and help you? Are there interpreters available?
Yes.
Do you know how one becomes an interpreter in the court system? Do they have to make a formal application? Is there a website available? Let's say somebody really knows a foreign language with a certain degree of expertise, and that person wants to become an interpreter, would you know how they would go about applying to the court system?
Yes, when there's an opening, you could go to the court website, and when there's an opening position, you apply, and I believe that you must take a test.
But there is a specific website for this.
Yes, all job openings for the Unified Court System is on the website, New York State Unified Court System.
Now, you have certain skills with technical equipment that I sadly lack. And this world today, you're in your late 20s. This world today is now a technological world. And the schools groom students from their very first, as Ryan, who was our intern, who sadly lost his grandmother this week in China, and we give our condolences. He has computer training from the very beginning. When you approach a project with video, DVD, all that sort, on the average, how well will somebody with no technical skills fare today in the average situation? In other words, a person who cannot operate the technical equipment, is that person so severely handicapped that he either must get training or not do certain work, or are there other avenues?
I believe if you just teach the person the basics, and the person will get a grasp of it and will learn on his or her own.
Now, you and I have worked together a little bit on this, and how do you think I have been doing in learning these various skills? You can be blunt.
I think you've been learning very well. You picked up very quickly, and you've been doing well so far.
You see the loyalty that exists among the court personnel. Even when I give a completely free hand here, that there is still a camaraderie and a loyalty that's not going to impede the bare statement of facts. Let's be honest about things, Sebastian. I interviewed Pete Seeger last year, and if I knew what I was doing, that interview would be on camera already. So I'm in drastic need of support. Now, your brother is extremely skilled in this type of video. I was sold a camera for the organization that, as you put it, is not suitable even for TV. How do things like this happen?
I do not know. You went without somebody that would tell you what is suitable for the television.
Well, I asked for the smallest possible DVD recorder that will take an interview for television. And they sold me exactly the smallest, the lightest thing in the hand. I don't even need to put a cassette in there. How can such a thing turn out not to be for television? What did you say? It's only for a computer?
Yes, that camcorder that you bought was for computers.
You see, you have to watch out for everything. Nothing is, it's now the consumer beware of everything. And if you don't have that, now you have to check out everything. But with the wizardry of Sebastian and his family, it will still come on air. So those interviews of Pete Seeger will come on very soon. Now, I want to get into your interest with Judaism, because this fascinated me, that you met rabbis who told you that you could not study Judaism. Would you talk about that a little bit?
But it started when I was 18 years old. I started to work in a camp up in Connecticut. It was a Orthodox Jewish camp, and I was learning about kosher. They told me about kosher, and I was very interested in Judaism. So I pulled aside the rabbi one day, and I asked if I can convert into Judaism, not knowing that I couldn't. They said, no, you must be born a Jew to convert into Judaism.
Exactly the wrong information. Anybody can become a Jew, Anybody can have an Orthodox conversion with an Orthodox rabbi at any time, and everybody who is interested should be encouraged and congratulated. Now, you were dating a Jewish girl at one time?
Yes.
What happened with that?
She was told by the rabbi to cease all relationships with me.
Well, we've done programs on interracial, interfaith dating. That certainly, if it's an Orthodox rabbi, that would be the proper conduct of the rabbi. It's somewhat controversial, but the religion says you will not conduct yourself in such a manner that sons and the daughters are given one to the other. But was it explained that there are no more Jews left in the world, and that's why there's no more Jews? You know that the robbers of a Jew. Were you ever also going further in that you were told that if you continued your studies, tragedy would befall you?
Yes.
And what?
And studying the Kabbalah.
And were you told, I see that, now there is a theory that you must really be thoroughly immersed as almost a rabbi of great learning to study the Kabbalah, or its power can overpower you. But there are really ignorant people out there who don't express it in the proper way, and they can tell it to you wrong. How were you told?
Not to study it.
And what would happen if you did?
Bad things can come upon
Tell
me.
me, go ahead, be blunt. This is a program where you can be blunt.
That's what I was told.
No consequences worse than that?
Yes, that bad things will befall on me.
Well, essentially, that the awesome power of the Kabbalah would essentially overwhelm you. And people have to be aware that you shouldn't be discouraged from Judaism. You shouldn't be discouraged from knowing Jews. But there are almost no Jews left in the world, and certainly we would favor Jews dating Jews and Jews marrying Jews. But there's only limited things that we can do. And once it takes place, and we welcome everybody into the fold, and we welcome everybody with love and harmony once things are done. And we hope for the best. Now, Sebastian, maybe I can become an Italian somehow or other. You could teach me how to cook or how to appreciate art or to paint. Do you think that's possible?
Yes, I can.
And tell me, how do you like working with blacks and Jews in conversation? We have about 10 seconds left.
It's a new venture in my life, so I'm taking it step by step, day by day.
And are you going to continue to take more steps?
Yes.
And you're enjoying it?
Yes.
And how do you see the future? Bright?
Yes.
Thank you for coming on. It's been a great pleasure. I hope to work with you a lot more in the future. This is Blacks and Jews in Conversation, and we look forward to having your mother on the program as well. And stay tuned to future programs.